Well, today we are going to be honoring, before they pass away, because everybody seems to honor people after they die, we are going to be honoring Cheech and Chong.
Oh, love it. Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong. They're legends, man.
They are, and I'm sad. I'm sad that people are forgetting them. Don't forget Cheech and Chong. They're important. And I'm going to tell us why. Beginning of Cheech and Chong really was, they had tapes that got passed around.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't go to your store and get the first album they put out was in 1971, but Philadelphia didn't have it. You know, it didn't get around that way in the olden days. There really wasn't domestic coverage for any kind of music or any kind of tape or record product. So this was really a comedy record, and it was being treated like a music record because it had a single. The first single that Cheech and Chong put out was called Santa Claus and His Old Lady. I kind of remember that. Did you ever hear that?
I do, yeah. That's the one where it was like, Mamacita.
With the dirty knees. Yeah. Is that the one you quoted a couple episodes?
Santa, please. The butter with the bony knees.
So it's Cheech Marin and it's Tommy Chong. All right. So they met in Vancouver in the late 1960s. So Chong was already a musician. He had already had a band. He was in a band that had a top hit, but it was one of them old like Motown bands.
Oh.
You know, doo-wop, bop, you know, that was a great doo-wop.
Were you just singing Bop by Hanson?
I kind of sounded that way.
I think you kind of were.
Was Bop doo-wop?
No, it wasn't.
They missed an opportunity to bring back doo-wop. So anyway, Chong was in a doo-wop band. He was just a rando guitar player in this band. He actually eventually got fired from the band. He wasn't even that great a guitar player. I've actually interviewed him in the past. He told me that. He's like, I'm not a great guitar player. So in a lot of these Cheech and Chong movies, you see him shredding and playing solos. And I was like, but you're a good player. I don't think I'm that good. So all the time you see him playing like and hear songs from the Cheech and Chong movies, he's like, it's so much cheaper to just get a performer in Hollywood to pretend to be you. He's got there's all these things like that in the Cheech and Chong world. All right. So they were a comedy duo and they were playing peep shows. Okay. And they were going in and just doing their skits. So you had one guy, you had Cheech, but Cheech's real name, you know, it's not even Cheech. It's Richard Anthony Marin.
Oh.
All right. Yeah. He was born in L.A.
I knew that. Born in East L.A. You sang a whole song about it that parodied Bruce Springsteen.
I was born in East L.A. Man, I was born.
And Tommy was born in Edmonton, Canada.
I didn't know he was Canadian.
Yeah. So they met. I remember there was a reason Cheech went north. I can't remember the reason. Oh, well. Should have done better homework, huh?
Should have.
But he went north and he bumped into Chong, and I guess they hit it off. They're like, hey, let's start doing this kind of comedy routine. So they would go and do bits. Cheech and Chong was just one of their bits.
Oh, and he just took it on as his moniker after that.
Yeah. So it started to take off so much that they ended up being Cheech and Chong because that was the bit that worked the best for them. That's like if Jim Carrey, of all the characters he played on Living Color, everybody remembered Fire Marshal Jim. And then they just would call it Pee Wee Herman's probably a better example.
How the fuck could you get Fire Marshal Bill wrong? It's your name.
Oh, I said Fire Marshal Jim.
Jim's your brother.
Yeah, it is my brother. That must have been how I did it. I hear Bill, I turn it to Jim. It's just a thing. Ooh. Probably a better example is like Pee Wee Herman. He did one character. He's done others, but that one stuck. And now nobody knew for a while. There was a guy named Paul Rubens. They thought it was Pee Wee Herman. That's what happened to Cheech and Chong. So it says here, their first album success, that was an album called Cheech and Chong. It was released in 1971. It started to establish their fame. We talked about that. It featured the famous routine, Dave's Not Here.
Yeah. Which they then did work that into Up in Smoke.
I can't remember the...
Yeah, Cheech got deported and he didn't have his wallet, so he had to call home from the immigration office.
Oh, right.
Tommy Chong answered him. He's like, hey, Dave. And he's like, Dave's not here, man. And like, so they worked all their bits and all their skits into their movies eventually.
That's exactly right.
Even that peep show stuff became movies later on once they established careers.
100% right. Yeah. And I actually think that might have been something that hurt them. I'll talk about that a little bit more because it comes back.
I think so too.
Essentially jumping ahead, they got tired of the Cheech and Chong thing. They got tired of being typecast, and anybody who's typecast, I think, gets tired of that eventually. So that's going to keep that in the back of your head. That's going to come up a little bit more. So the first album was a hit. Now what happens in Hollywood? Hey, you got a hit album. Let's try to make a hit movie. All right. So now we're going to talk about Up in Smoke, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. All time. Like it goes anytime I put it on, I will stay and watch the whole thing.
Absolutely.
It's not like you watch TV anymore and it's on, but if it were on, I would stay and watch the whole thing. It's a great movie. Are you a big fan of that?
So many good parts. Like I love when like the narcs are cracking down on him and they find like a plate of Ajax cleanser and they think it's Coke and it's like, this shit's turning blue. This stuff's really high test stuff. Yeah. And then they're like driving like the car, like the van full of that's made of marijuana across the border, and he's smoking a joint. So before they get to immigration, he like throws the joint in the convertible next door, and, like lands in the nuns, and like the fucking border cops are like arresting the nuns.
Hey, we're busting nuns, man.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, almost all their movies were like two dopey guys who just wanted to have some fun and never meant to hurt anybody, just causing hijinks, like leaving the scene of a crime and causing more problems because they drove away. In some bizarre way, they ended up like leaving a problem behind them. That's hysterical. They just get out of everything. It's so fucking funny.
And they were in a band too. Like in Up in Smoke, their characters were in a band. Like I love when they were like, they had somebody that was trying to get them uniforms for the band. He was like, yeah, but we want uniforms that make us all look different.
Yeah, right. God, the same uniforms. He had that Mexican band and like some of them got deported out. He's like, oh no, what do we do? There was a lot of like, it's definitely the product of its time because there's a lot of racist jokes, you know, but it's still a funny movie. So it was directed by a guy named Lou Adler, and Lou Adler was known as a producer and a, you know, more of a music person. So directing was new to him. He didn't really, you know, do that before. So talk about the way that Cheech and Chong work. It's like they show up, they're like, guess what? It's day one. We're going to make a movie. We don't know how. We're going to wing it. So Tommy Chong was even saying to me, he said, you know, there's a lot of scenes that I directed just because we were amateurs. Lou didn't know what he was doing half the time. I didn't know any better. So sometimes he's like, why don't you do this? All right. So Tommy Chong is an uncredited director for the first movie.
This is my friend, Strawberry.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Do you know who played Cousin Strawberry?
No, I can't recall.
Tom Skerritt.
Oh, yeah?
There's a name you don't hear anymore.
Is he from Top Gun?
Yeah. Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt.
On my old podcast, I'm not going to name drop the whole time, I promise. On my old podcast, we also interviewed Tom Skerritt, and I asked him about this movie. I was like, you know, you did a lot of pretty amazing things, and then you did this movie. And I said to him, I go, what was it like on this production? Because Tommy had said it was kind of a crazy shit show. He goes, basically, I met the guys one night, and they said, hey, do you want to come over tomorrow and film a scene? We have this crazy idea for this guy called Strawberry, because he's got a big strawberry on his face. And Tom Skerritt goes, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And that's how half these movies were made back in the day. They weren't really thought out. It was just like, hey, you're a buddy of mine, or you're an interesting guy, and I'm an entertainer in Hollywood. I'm a mover and shaker. Sure, I'll come to your set tomorrow, and I'll be in your movie, and we'll improvise some shit.
Yeah, I'm almost surprised they even had a skit in mind when they invited him over. I just figured they just showed up the day of the scene and just ran the camera and did shit. I also thought that's why most of the stuff that was in their movies was stuff they already did and basically tried out on their albums and shit.
With a little bit of improv and kind of making the scene its own, that's exactly how it started to become. So that movie's a hit. Everybody now knows Cheech and Chong. It's got a really slick style to it. It's got like, it's one of my favorite movies for just looking at California. And then for some reason, no other movie in this series looks like that movie.
You're right.
It's like somebody said, how much did it cost to make that last one? $1 million. All right, we're going to give you $300. Try to make something good. So the last thing to say about Up in Smoke. So this was the Cheech and Chong character. Here's something interesting that a lot of people I talk to don't know. So Chong in that movie wasn't Chong. His name was Man. He was like M-A-N, Man, the man.
Okay.
And at one point in the very beginning, when his father and mother are trying to throw him out of the rich mansion that he lives in, they call him Anthony. So at some point, this character has his own name. Anthony, nicknamed Man. So now the next movie comes out, Cheech and Chong's next movie. They just go, fuck it, you're Chong. So now it's Cheech and Chong. So they're like, let's double down on what worked on the first movie. Now, I think there was more to that first movie that was more about the environment.
Yeah.
Now it goes on to be a lot more about just the characters, and everything seems closer, and the sets are now tighter. It's because the budget's gone down. It's got to be, because it looks like that. It looks like a lot of this is now being filmed on the cheap. All right. But again, they needed a director, so they got Tommy Chong. He's like, I'm a pro now. I can do this now. So they doubled down on the weed jokes, and I don't know. This is where they started to add other characters. Like, I think Cheech plays another character, a long-haired Southern guy.
Yep.
Hey, how you doing? I'm the long-haired Southern stereotype.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But I guess like that was the point where, if I understand correctly, they were kind of like, look, we don't want to be just Cheech and Chong. We do other things. We are character actors. Let's get more in there. So circling back to what I said earlier, I started to dislike all the characters they were putting in. That started to annoy me because I didn't think any of their characters were any good but Cheech and Chong. That's what was frustrating.
Yeah, I can understand not wanting to be typecast, but like nothing else struck gold as much as that.
So I don't know how well the second movie did, but they eventually rolled into the third movie. They're doing about a movie a year now. I mean, they're flying.
I didn't realize there was that many of them.
We have about 3 more to go.
Holy shit.
So the next one is Nice Dreams. I always thought this was clever. So instead of ice cream, because they were ice cream delivery people, but they were delivering weed,
right.
They crossed off the D and made it the C. I can't spell. They made it Nice Dreams instead of ice cream on their truck. I thought that was funny. So this time it's Tommy's directing, right? He's getting a little better at it, but they really moved into like a sex comedy world this time. There was a lot of nudity, a lot of dirty jokes. Did you notice that? Yeah. So this is the one I saw with my buddy Eric, which is why I fell in love with it, because I was like, these guys are dirty. I love them. But it was a different change. It wasn't so much about the weed anymore. They were on the road. They were on the run. They were being chased by some big guy at one point. But they always split them up, too. Did you ever notice, like, in some of these movies, you get scenes where it's just Chong and he's having his adventure and then Cheech is having his own adventure? They do that sometimes.
Yep.
So this was one of the movies where they separated them. I like this movie. I think it's probably my second favorite to Up in Smoke, but it's got some problems. But it's still pretty funny and pretty dirty. All right. Now we're getting on to, this is 1982. Another year, another movie. I guess Tommy was tired of directing. They got a new director this time. This is called Things Are Tough All Over. Do you know this one?
No, I don't know this one at all.
This one wasn't even about weed. They decided for some reason, let's not talk about weed. It's not even like a sex comedy. It was just more like a Cannonball Run type of thing, like a road trip type thing. I barely remember this one. This was one where Chong played some other characters, and I thought every one of them was stupid. So I'm going to have to glaze over this one. I don't remember much about this one. And then after that, it's Still Smokin'.
I know Still Smokin'. I did see this one, yes. This was what, 85?
This would have been, 83.
Wow. So they really were every year. You're right.
So this one, I'm guessing it was kind of like, hey, our star is starting to fade a little bit. We did great with that Up in Smoke. Why don't we make a sequel to that called Still Smokin', and we'll just use a lot of our skits from our show, and we'll take some of them skits and film them in a studio and do them right. So it was a hodgepodge of stage and reshot skits. So now it wasn't even a movie with a narrative anymore. It was just stuff strewn together.
It did take place in Amsterdam. That was part of the story.
You're right.
They went there because it was the marijuana capital of the world.
Yeah, that's right. And Ray Dawn Chong was in the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah, that was Tommy's daughter. Make a little cameo, starting her career on Still Smokin'.
Yep.
But that one had some of the best. I mean, I'd like a narrative, but that one had some of the best skits. The boxing with the Invisible Man, was hysterical.
Another thing about their movies, and I think it really went through all of them, the female actors in the movies always just straight up porn stars. So many of them were just like strippers and porno actors.
Actually, Shelby Chong, who was in I think she was in the second one as one of the bimbos, actually married Tommy.
Really?
And stayed with Tommy the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently not a bimbo. And then all of a sudden they came out with Yellowbeard. So is this a Cheech and Chong movie?
I don't
Not really,
think so.
But this is, but I'm putting it in here anyway because it was an appearance by them. It was a weird appearance. So by now, the inside scoop is these two aren't getting along. These two are sick of each other. And now they have to go do a Yellowbeard movie. So evidently, when you watch this movie, you're watching two people who are really upset with each other at the moment, trying to pretend they're getting along.
And we talked about Yellowbeard before. Bad movies from good directors, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
I hated this movie. I just could not enjoy this movie. So again, this is only one thing I've seen once. And then the last thing here. Oh, no, not the last thing. The Corsican Brothers. Remember the Corsican Brothers?
I do.
This one was definitely a more tamed down Cheech and Chong. Maybe they were like, let's make this more accessible for kids. Because this one played on TV all the time.
Yes.
This one had slapstick humor that wasn't totally filthy. Do you remember what this was about?
I couldn't give you a whole synopsis. What do you got?
I only remember the punchline. It's one gets hurt, the other one feels it.
Oh, right. They were twins. I knew that they were twins, but I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy can only go so far. And then, so being aware that these guys are secretly behind the scenes not getting along so well, they worked on a song called Born in East L.A., right? It was a parody of Born in the USA. Yep. It's like going back to their roots where they're doing humor songs and they're doing parodies. And the story kind of goes where Cheech is still into this partnership. He's still wanting to get out there and work. Chong's a little bit like, hey, man, you know what? You do whatever you want. You want to go and do something with this song? Go do something with this song. So you can see that it is a Cheech and Chong song, but Chong wasn't really part of it.
Yeah.
He's not even in the song for what I can tell. So evidently Cheech says, hey, Tommy, like, are we working together anymore or what? He goes, you do what you want. All right, man, I have an opportunity to do this movie. They want us. Oh, I don't want to do anything. You do what you want. So then Cheech went and did Born in East L.A., the movie. That's why Cheech went solo. He's like, I don't want to stop my career. And this guy's dragging ass. He's so annoyed with me and just tired of being a partner that he doesn't want to work anymore.
Yeah.
He needed a break.
I'll tell you what, when he went solo, his movies, like the quality of his movies and the ratings of his movies went up. I wouldn't say significantly, but they were better rated than what Cheech and Chong were getting. Remember his other movie he had after? So Born in East L.A. was like 85. Remember Shrimp on the Barbie?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, Tommy wasn't getting any jobs.
Oh, shit, that was 1990, Shrimp on the Barbie. I just remember him, and he started doing you talked about them being character actors. He did just start popping up other places, just as he was in fucking Ghostbusters. He was at the fucking dock when the Titanic came in. He was like, better late than never. That was Cheech Marin.
I remember seeing him on a show with like Chuck Norris. Wasn't he on something with?
Probably. I don't remember that, but probably.
Nash Bridges. Oh, it wasn't Chuck Norris. It was it was Don Johnson.
Oh, I thought you meant yeah. I do remember that. That was like the same quality of like Texas Ranger.
Yeah. Yeah, he took us from movies to TV. Yeah, he had a little bit of a career.
One great thing that Cheech always did, he always had like that funny stare where he just like had his mouth open, you like big mustache, and all he had to do was like give that look and it was fucking comedy gold.
Like a puppy dog.
Yeah.